Okay, this is training number 1, team training, team building. So I'm going to take us back to the basics, but you'll talk throughout the team time with specifics on how you will do things. I want to talk to you and put the why in it, okay? Via de Cristo, so I'm going to give you some terms as we go along, so I'm going to kind of break it down, but Via de Cristo uses what's called the essentials. Those are the items that we deem necessary for a weekend. And I'm going to go over those because a lot of people maybe don't understand why it's important to kind of stick with the plan, right? Not go change a whole bunch of things, which is why it becomes an authentic Via de Cristo. Those of us who have been active in Via de Cristo, at some point were exposed to this word essentials. And you have to remember the roots came from Mallorca, Spain in 1949 with Eduardo Bonin in the first Curcio that happened so long ago. These essentials haven't changed since then. Whether they are done through the Methodist Walk to Emmaus, the Catholic Curcio, the Lutheran Via de Cristo, Notes of Grace, Tres Dias, non-denominational, all those keep and maintain an essential pack, those things that are important. So sometimes people think, well, all those essentials are just, they limit you or they're restraining, but they're not. If you look at those things, there's a reason we do it, and I hope that you get a better understanding at the end of this to understand maybe the why behind it. So a lot of communities, so there are 42 current secretariats or Via de Cristos in the United States. Now we're international, but in the United States alone, there's 42. Each of them will do everything that's in the essentials. They might have their own flavor for certain things, which we have a Colorado flavor, or Colorado, Nebraska now flavor, right? But all of them maintain these essentials. So I'm going to kind of go over this list of essentials and kind of give you the why behind it. There are 15 talks on a weekend, 15 talks. We call them arroyos, but those 15 talks are actually one. The whole purpose of it is to build. One builds on top of the next, which builds on top of the next. And to take it a little further, each time there's a building, it's not only from Thursday to Sunday, it's Friday morning to Friday night, Saturday morning to Saturday night. The talks are designed to, the morning talks are about head knowledge. Just head. The first talk is ideal. It's head. The next one we move to then becomes a little deeper, going into the piety talk that evening, which is the heart talk. Every weekend, study on Saturday, going into leaders on the evening. And similarly, the same. Environment. We think about our environment, posing and probing those questions to get people to start thinking about it. And we do those things because each time, and why is it, and let me just take it further, why is it lay-led? Well, Eduardo Bonin decided that the leaders, after the Civil War there, the country was just depleted. There was no one left. And he thought, I want to take this group of people because we have to help out. We have to step in, right? We have to be those leaders. And the church without lay people, that's a difficult church. We can't do it alone. And so we come alongside, which is why we have spiritual directors on the weekend. But this lay-led movement is designed to give people the tools to empower them to go back to their communities, to go back to their families, to go back to their home churches, and take those tools and be able to grow with them, right? Similarly, that's how we start out small. We start out thinking, and then we move it into the heart, so that every day things start to unfold, right? A lay person will write a royal. So each time there's a weekend, Janice, she prayed over the royals, and she prayed over who would give these royals and where God led her. That royal will be done by that person. It's going to have the same contents as the one that was done on weekend 2, but it's given by Phil. And it's going to have a little bit different spin, even though the guts stay the same, right? The essentials stay the same, right? So that's what makes it always moving, always changing. That's why this team is this team for weekend 47. This royal that Phil's going to do is going to be this royal. Kathy's going to do this one. Anna's going to do that one. It's going to be this time for that. Let's talk about, so the talks are an essential. Let's talk about palanca. Palanca is the word we use for stuff. You know, we think of, oh, I remember when I got my palanca. Those notes. Palanca also is prayer. That's really what it derives around. Prayer-filled. Palanca, those notes are intended to be prayerfully written. You know, when we sign up for the prayer hours, for the, prayer vigils, things like that. It's intentional sacrificial prayer. And it is essential for a weekend. Retreat. Retreat is an essential. What that simply means is time apart. It means to take a participant to refer to a quiet, contemplative time away from the normal distractions, allowing someone the time to focus on God. By seeking a setting where participants can avoid distractions, we provide them a place to be with God and hear his call. Sometimes we'll find that it's difficult for people, especially on that first night. They'll be like, oh, I don't know about all this. But, that's where it really falls back on the sponsor to say, it's okay to let them know. The first night, we're just there's a lot going on. We're gonna have a night of quiet, just so that you know. And team could also utilize that. Just take that time to get yourself in the right space. As a table leader, you kind of end up doing that. But even for us, just to, I know we have little tasks because we're going to be the doers and the hands and feet, but to remember it, there's a reason why that it's sent to a retreat. Whether we're at a church or a camp or whatever, it's an opportunity to spend time with the Lord away from distractions. There's also, behind the practice of limiting, or we want to try to figure out what to do with the cell phones, and we've talked about this for a long time. So in our modern age, what we've done is asked or put in the script to tell the pilgrims, and team really needs to model this. Team needs to model this. Team needs to model this.
Excuse me.
What do you want us to do here?
But watch how often you're using your cell phone. We can't, it's hard to say no cell phones. The days back where they made you take your cell phone and you couldn't use it, or you couldn't even bring it on the weekend. Well, some people use their phone for their Bible, and we have to give that grace. Mm-hmm. So we also say, in the spirit of charity, we ask that you be mindful of this. Really try to unplug as much as you can. That doesn't mean that we're going to have breaks and can't check things. And obviously there's going to be your head people. Palanca's going to be emailing, are you ready for us? No, not yet. Give us 5. Where's the music? They're gone again, eating snacks. Yes.
Is there a chance, one of my clients actually supplies Bibles all over the world, and I'm sure he's gonna have a lot of extra Bibles. Is there a chance we can bring some?
Talk to Ginny, she is our purchaser, and I don't think she's bought them yet.
Okay.
I have not. I mean,
Talk to Mario. There you go. Look at that. See how we are such a great team. So anyway, the more we can unplug and be models of that, the better. Other essentials, 72 hours. Some people say, well, it's so much time and it takes time. Can we do it in 2 days instead? No. It's intended to be 3 days. And sometimes when you look at people who have gone through, or when you hear stories, sometimes it takes those full 3 days. And to be fully honest, it takes your life to figure out that relationship with God. It really does.
When I was attending, if I could share this, I was going through a really, really, really tough time in my life.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah, and I was praying at that time in my life for peace. I even went out and got the prayers of the Lord, the peace prayer from the Lord on a plaque and put it in my kitchen. When I attended, and I was in line and I asked about the table. Oh, Mario, you're at the table peace. I went, what? That was my table.
See,
Nicole.
those are the things. There's always the action behind that comes to those aha moments. But there's a necessity to do 72 hours. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about are things that we've heard comments on, good, bad, and indifferent. Notes, write-downs, and posters. Why do we do that? Remember? We know how. This is what we do. Someone's like, oh, God, I don't want to do another poster.
Well, some people
But
learn
you
in
have,
different ways.
correct. So the reason it's intended to be that way, the why, is because you have so many different learning skills. And sometimes people need to hear it 2 or 3 times. And sometimes hearing it from another person. And let's also remember, the core is about relationship. You're talking about table time. It's that conversation that you're working together after you hear that talk. You're putting together the poster, As table leaders, just make sure that you balance that out. Don't get so wrapped up into it. Keep it simple, keep it a poster, right? But it's that conversation that happens during that time. And some people need to write notes. Some people need to draw little circles while they're listening because that's how their skills work. We have to remember that everyone processes differently, okay? 5 meditations. Just like the Royos, we use the 5 meditations from our spiritual directors for the participants or the pilgrims to examine their relationship with Christ. That's what it's intended to. Daily communion. We will have communion every day. It is the gift from God, and we will celebrate it together. Jesus is there and available to each of them through the days. There's a reason for the silent retreat, because that gives us time to settle in. Sometimes it's hard for people. As a table leader, you're going to need to kind of gauge that with your people at your table, and just, usually the men are like, oh, hallelujah, I don't have to talk to anybody. The women are like, what do you mean? What if I need a fan? What if I need this? What am I going to do? What do you mean I can't talk? I don't know these people, and now you want me to be quiet? Truly. But remember, just because we ask them to be silent, if you need to speak to your table as you're going back and get to your area where you're sleeping, say, guys, if you need anything, just take this time to kind of relax, just be. But if you need anything, please come and get me. The purpose is to help them through that, right? To guide them through that.
Where will we be at? Just in the back there?
So if you are a table leader, you will be with the pilgrims, basically. So you will be, it's almost, the blessing, like with Mario, it's kind of like you'll be attending the weekend all over again, except you'll be leading, and you just have to remember to walk in front of the pilgrims and pretend you know where you're going.
Okay.
So follow Janice.
Okay.
Just always, Janice or Kathy, just follow them. I think we're going somewhere. Come on, guys. No, you will follow suit along with them. And now, is the team off to a little bit? the table leaders from the rooms, from the dorms, do you remember?
I put them all together. I got the team.
But the team is in the hotel, the table leaders are with the.
That's what I'm saying, so the table leaders,
cabins.
are
Table
they,
leaders with the cap, yeah, they're.
so they're right
same room,
in
yeah.
with the
They're
pilgrims?
separate, little separate rooms.
So
but-
they're kind of right, but in the same
It's-
dorm?
yes.
So you'll be kind of with other table leaders, but you'll be right close to the pilgrims. Always, you're
I don't know
always
about
gonna be
men.
right close to the pilgrims to where you can
Yeah.
keep your eye on those little
I don't
sheep
know
because
the
they will
men's.
wander off.
I don't know about the men's, that's the women's.
Okay,
Very
okay.
Similar
That makes sense.
cabin.
Is
Okay.
it? Okay.
So another essential is the celebration of repentance. So a lot of times we've done the mime skit. I know that we're working on a different different skit for this weekend, but that's not the celebration of repentance. It's when we get ready to have communion afterwards, and we'll nail. Sometimes we use the nails, or we use rice paper. Sometimes we just have a service, but we always celebrate with communion afterwards. It's that time to examine your conscience, opportunity to give over to God your burdens. And that includes us, you know? It's that time to just really give it to God, leave it at the cross, and throw it down at the bottom and say, He got it. Don't go pick it back up. Crosses are an essential. Those little tangible things that we get, that's the only tangible thing that you get on the weekend for a Via de Cristo, really, that's other than, I'm not talking Polanca, but I'm saying as far as a gift, right? This little cross. It has always remained vital to that reminder that Christ is counting on you. The closing, that time when we come together for that final send-off, saying you are now, Carcé says, you are now fourth day members, we're gonna go out in this world together. We're gonna go down that valley and we're gonna tackle it together. Group reunions, that is an essential where we talk about the importance of being in small group. Via de Cristo uses the word reunion group. And I'm going to say this forcefully. No, I'm going to say this with great importance. If you are not in a small group, find one. Phone a friend. Because we cannot model it. We cannot ask the pilgrims to do it if we are not modeling it. Reunion group is our Via de Cristo word, but it's that moment where you get with a friend, you have a cup of coffee, you take that time and say, how's your walk with Christ going? Can I pray for you over something? How are you doing out there? It's reunion. It's coming together and having that intimate relationship with someone else that you can share your life in Christ. And if you're not grouping, get in a group. And if you don't know how to do that, call me. It's important. It really is. And groups don't have to, I started in a reunion group with Dave and Carol, 20 years ago. We were in a group, that group's ebbed and flowed, and then it ended up being Dave and the Widows and Carol. And then it was a little scary. I'm like, Dave, I hope you're feeling okay. Just saying. But and then they moved. And then they moved, and then we have the girls that, we meet. But those people that you get in relationship with, that something comes up, they'll pray for you. And if we can't model that to these pilgrims, how are we going to get them to understand the importance? And relationships take time. Last one is the Ultrea. When we come together, Ultrea simply means a group of reunions. It's coming together with a larger group to celebrate the Christian community in action. Via de Cristo calls it an Ultrea. In Via de Cristo, so those are your essentials. In Via de Cristo, we use the word adiaphoros. Adiaphora is the word. But adiaphorous items or things are events that we do that we say prick the conscience, add a level of movement. So things like on Thursday evening, before the silent retreat, we have Stations of the Cross. where they hear the readings of all the 14 stations of Christ. Christ speaks, woman replies. Silent moment. Right? It's to help bring them to a place. And each pilgrim is going to process it differently. We're going to ask if they want to come up and hold the cross or a candle. We don't want to force anyone to do it. We model it. And it will be said in the script, feel free to come and participate how you would like, as you're comfortable. Some of them, there's so much going on, they won't even hear it. I'm going to tell you that. And sometimes they will, and they'll want to help, and sometimes they'll see somebody else, and they'll think, well, I can go do that. And some of them will never move. And that's okay, right? We talk about the other audiophorous things are foot washing. Foot washing can be an impactful thing. We provide the space. We provide that time. We provide that act of love to the pilgrims. And a lot of times that can be a very pivotal point for the pilgrims. Each of these things, chapel time, meditations, and the audiophorous things, we usually allow time, say, if you'd like to sit behind, sometimes somebody just needs to sit there. I mean, sometimes people just need to sob for a minute. I mean, sometimes you never know what point is going to hit people, right? So audiophorous, those things that will help move, and they're not necessary, but they're helpful, right? We don't have to do them to be a Via de Cristo. And other groups may do something different. We do the dying moments, or we do the skit in preparation to the celebration of the Lord's meal that Saturday, before our big agape meal. Agape meal, that big dinner you had Saturday night, that's not essential. I don't know any community that doesn't do it, but I'm saying it's not an essential. These are the things that people will walk into that room and go, this is what heaven's going to be like. I'm going to be sitting with my brothers or sisters. These are the things that we do that help people come into a place where they can be in a relationship with Christ, where they can finally maybe even accept that love that he has, maybe even understand that he has something greater for them. Maybe that they will, at the end of the time, understand that they have a purpose. That, I shouldn't keep God in a box. Maybe I need to do more than be the pew sitter on Sunday. And it doesn't just mean your church. Well, church is very important. Yes, go back. That's why, a lot of times if a pastor really knew the benefits of a Via de Cristo, that it gives you the tools to come back and say, I can do this. I can help out. How can I help? But we need to live it the whole way through our lives, our work, our places. Curcio is designed as a direct channel which should move people from where they are to where they ought to be. It might be compared to a beautiful and wide, newly expressed way, which would enable the ordinary man to reach his destiny without too much difficulty. Naturally, it would be foolish to expect such a beautiful expressway to always pass near our homes for our own convenience. When we speak of Curcio, we are speaking of a group of persons who come together for 3 days to share friendship, personal contact, and joy. It is here that we must bring into focus and clearly delineate the purpose of the movement. The question which presents itself, just what is it that these people wish to achieve, and what is their purpose to achieve it? The Curcio proposes that it is with the grace of God. That's why it's grace-filled. We achieve it for each person to give them that living experience, the warm personal sharings. The purpose, the mission statement, the purpose, Via de Cristo is a means for spiritual renewal. It is meant to strengthen the faith of Christian men and women, to encourage them to be fully committed to serving God in every area of life. The Via de Cristo weekend meets you wherever you are. And that as team is something we need to keep in mind. We don't know anything about these pilgrims. Heck, look, I didn't know half the things I knew about you guys when you all shared it, right? We don't know everything about everyone. So we have to take into consideration that we don't know their journey they've been on. We have to remember to, again, like everything else, let things build gradually, slowly. Let things come into being. That first night, they're going to be reserved, less free to just blah, blah, blah. Some people are going to be quiet. Some people are going to be chit-chatty, nervous chit-chatty maybe. It's our job as a team to not come in and overpower them. As table leaders, you come along with the pilgrims on their journey. You don't overtake them and try to think that they need to do this or they need to do that. We're an open listening ear. When it's lunchtime, breakfast time, we as chas, the rest of us, we have to be in that same space to meet that person where they might be. Maybe they just really got affected by a talk that they just heard. And we don't know that. They're coming into lunch. If they're quiet, gauge that. Because the worst thing we can do is try to force anything, whether it be our beliefs or our thought of what they should be doing. The worst thing we can do is try to put those on another person, right? So, the other thing, CHA 101. I'm going to just say this, and I'm going to probably keep saying CHA 101, but CHA 101 is always, think of the pilgrim. We want to provide them an experience to where they can come into a deep relationship with God. We don't want to have them do anything. If you see a pilgrim coming, open the door for them. This is why Polanco come in when we're on breaks, and they'll come and clean up the tables and everything to where it's always fresh and new and beautiful. Every morning it's fresh and new and beautiful, right? It's those little things that we may have on the beds at night for the pilgrims when they go to sleep or something. Those little thoughts, right? I remember one of our musicians years back, she used to call herself the potty cha. And she believed it was her job to go in and make sure all the bathrooms were clean. And she wanted to fold the toilet paper to a little V like in the fancy hotels. So she would be like, I just got to go do my potty cha job. I'll be right back. And off she'd go and she says, okay, everything's folded. They're all pointed, looking really good. But that was important for her. Maybe if you see a pilgrim, sometimes they're, like this, just as a table leader, you might say, hey, are you okay? And man, I got this headache. Okay, we'll have some things. Can I help you with that? Do you take anything for it? Can I get you a glass of water? Those extra things. See, it's that being in that place to where you can be there, not be overbearing, but be attentive through what you see, through what you hear, and how we are. And you do that, the pilgrim's gonna be able to the less we make or have them do or worry about, the more they can focus on God. And that, my friends, is why we are on Team 47.
Amen.
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 All right, that's all I got.
Question.
Oh yeah, you got a question? Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't plan question and answer time.
Not really a question, but can you share what you can say and just leave alone on a potential pilgrim?
Okay. So if you are, we would love to have some more pilgrims, guys. Right now we're at 6. We've got some possibilities out there, but ideally, years back, it was when we were on the board many, many years ago, we posed that question, what is our drop dead number, right? And really it's 9 for good table dynamics.
No,
9, to where we have a nice, having a table with one pilgrim is, the people have done it, but Via de Cristo in Colorado has determined that that gives a nice dynamic. And I fully believe, but what can you say? So let's say you have someone, first off, I gotta say, if you don't know the person that you are asking, you better get to know them. Sponsorship is something that's very important to me. And we, when I was on the national board on down, we talked about this. Sponsorship doesn't just begin on the weekend when you drop somebody off. Sponsorship starts, go have coffee with them, meet with them once a week, say, hey, how you doing? And you will, if you know your pilgrim, you're going to be able to gauge what you can and cannot say. I used to say all along, I could lay out, if you really need to know everything, I'll tell you everything that happens. I'll tell you everything. Well, then we're going to have a talk, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go have coffee, and then we're going to go and we're going to have foot washing. And you know what? I could lay everything out for them. And at the end of the weekend, they'll go, I had no idea they were going to wash my feet. Because it's still, you could, so I generally say to people, I would love to gift something that has been very powerful for me in my walk to you. It's a spiritual renewal weekend, and it is led by lay people like ourselves with spiritual directors. It'll be 3 days away from the world for you to focus on and be with God. There's going to be talks. We'll have a lot of talks. We'll sit at tables. You'll get to meet some great people. And there's team, and there's people that are attending just like you. And then there's gonna be a time where we're gonna have a lot of food, good music. It's just really a time for you to unplug and get back to search where you're at. Do you have any questions for me? And then they might. And half the time they're gonna go, no. Because you've already had this relationship with them. So they know that you're not taking them to some, for Anna to give me your kid, there's that relationship, and knowing that then after the weekend, that it's, and I let them know, and after the weekend, we're going to have a little gathering to get together, probably 2 weeks after the weekend. And we just get together and we have some kind of a potluck, or we share stories and get to see maybe some of the other people. But I will tell you that growing my family of Christian brothers and sisters is something that I can never get enough of, right? And that usually is enough. Sometimes I say, there'll be some little surprises. They got a lot of, each weekend they plan special things for whoever's attending. It's enough. It's truly enough. And then I say, and then if you are sponsoring someone, please make sure you don't just end it there. Meet with them a couple weeks after alone, or call them and say, hey, how you doing? They're back in the valley. Don't let them feel alone. And this is why we talk about grouping. It could be that you just meet with them once a month, but just making that connection so that they know. And if your sponsorship is in the right place, your pilgrim's going to be just fine. Does that make sense? Anybody else? Oh, Carol.
Question.
Uh-oh. No, go ahead.
Something that I say is, and I flat out say, hey,
Thanks, guys.
I will tell you anything you want to know. However,